When I started working at hospice, of course, so I was doing all palliative care then. And I did 10 years there before I retired from the city. And then I had a lot more hours on Mayne. And then, of course, I got the job here. But that was the piece I enjoyed the most, though, was the heart work. I call it heart work, or just being with people in that place. It might have been the most draining, but it was the most rewarding part of the work, just being with people in that.
That's Carolyn Cartwright-Owers, and this is The Stories That Brought You Here, a podcast exploring the depths and subtleties of people's lived experience in order to celebrate what makes us unique. I'm your host, Chris Wachlick. Carolyn, also known as C, came to the west coast of Canada from England in the mid-eighties. She would eventually begin working as a community nurse on Mayne Island, until moving to Pender Island and continuing that role there. C will share stories about her time as being a community nurse on small Gulf islands, and will also go really deep in exploring her time working in palliative care, which made up a very significant portion of her career. She will also share stories about growing up in England, which included the formative experience of learning to sail with her father, as well as speak about all the amazing things she's up to in retirement now. All that and much more coming up. But before we get started, there's something I'd like to share with you, and that's a service I'm providing to help people record their audio memoirs. If you've ever considered recording your own or family member's life story, but put it off because you're not sure how to do it, this could be of interest to you. In 2019, I began working privately with individuals in order to capture their personal history, to preserve it for current and future family members to enjoy. Recording the stories from your life captures your unique experiences, values, and family story, ensuring that it is preserved for future generations. Interestingly, though, what I've come to learn from recording people's memoirs is that it's not just the stories that they tell that are of importance, but it's also the way that stories are told that holds deep meaning. Stories that we tell, of course, capture our accomplishments and important things we did in our lives. But hearing those stories told in someone's own voice, one is truly able to get a deep sense as to who they really are. The process involved in capturing your stories begins with preliminary interviews so we can become acquainted. I found it deeply important to spend a significant amount of time building rapport and also discovering what part of a person's life they would like to share. This time also allows me the opportunity to ask questions to get a deeper understanding of why particular stories are meaningful and draw out more nuanced and specific information when we record. Next comes the recording process. Using professional recording equipment to record in the comfort of your own home, we can spend the time necessary to really cover all areas of your life that you would like your loved ones to hear. Lastly comes the editing phase. Using creative editing techniques, I can help to create a crisp, easy to listen to, and flowing narrative that can be enjoyed for many generations to come. The entire recording will be in your own voice, just as you would find in a written biography or memoir. If you're at all interested in this service or have any questions, there's a couple of different ways to get a hold of me. You can call me at 250-857-3091, and you can also reach me via email at myaudiomemoir@outlook.com. That's all one word, myaudiomemoir@outlook.com. You'll also find a link in the show notes that you can click on, which will direct you to the email address. Something that I've come to learn over the years is that everyone has stories worth preserving. What are yours? All right, thank you very much for listening to that. And now here is my interview with C.
I was nursing on Mayne Island at the time, and I was also looking for more hours so I didn't have to commute to Victoria because I was also working at Victoria Hospice, so I had more than one job. And the job on Pender came up, And so I applied for that and got it. So that was 4 days a week. And then I started commuting from Maine because the ferries actually worked for that Monday to Thursday. And then I could give up my job in Victoria so I didn't have to commute. I remember people saying, but you're still commuting. But I didn't call 15, 20 minutes on the ferry commuting at all. So it was like you got on the ferry, you basically opened your book, you closed your book, you got off. So that's how I got to start to be here. And then, and that was 2007.
All right. So as you say, at the time you were living on Mayne Island.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What made you become a resident of Mayne Island and how long were you there for?
Okay, I was there quite a long time. So there's obviously, you have to backtrack a little bit. When I came out from England and then I got married, we were in Victoria at an apartment and I was working at the hospital at the Jubilee. And we kind of got fed up of being in the city and we had camped on all the Gulf Islands the summer before. And so we said, oh, well, let's look and see what we can get on one of the islands. And then a little cabin came up on Maine very reasonably. And we thought, maybe we should do that and commute. And so that's how we got there. So we both commuted. My husband was working at UVic and then I still working at the Jubilee. But yes, so it was like obviously we were part-timers, but that was in 87. So
1987.
A long time.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Holy.
How old am I? 62.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to catch up with a lot of things you said.
I know.
There, right?
I just went into lots of things already. Yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's perfect. But what I do want to start with, so we're going to gradually make our way back to Pender Island, but we're going to take the long way to get there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned England. So you were born and raised in England. Whereabouts?
Okay. So I was born in Devon, in Exeter. And then for my dad's work, he worked in the bank. And so to get promotion then, you had to move. And so we ended up in Leicester in the Midlands for a very short time. And then we went to South Wales to Newport, and that's in Gwent. And that's where I kind of, went my first schooling till I was 8. And then we moved back to Exeter. And then we moved to Poole in Dorset. That's where my family, mum and my brother still are. And that was the best move ever for me, us and family. For a sailing person and being a water person, you couldn't imagine. I think when we drove there and we went to look at the view of the harbour, all of our chins just dropped to the floor because all you could see was glistening water, islands, golden sandy beaches and chalk cliffs. And we said, we're going to be living here. It was like it was a dream place for us. So, yeah.
And at that time, your family was into sailing?
Yes, my dad had already taught me to sail then. So I learned to sail when I was 6 on a reservoir in Wales. And then we were on a tidal river in Exeter, the River Exe. So that was tricky. And then we got to be in this beautiful harbour. So, yes. So I moved there when I was 12. Yeah.
So it's this magical place. Water's glistening.
It is. I can remember that day so well when we moved there. Yeah, when we went to see it for the first time. I think my dad also was totally shocked that he'd managed to get promotion there, right? Must have been something else to get that one. That must have been like a prime, And we stayed there. They didn't move away from there. Now, why would you? I mean, it's a bit like living here, really. We feel it's a magical place. But it is a city, but you've got all that water. And it's a very big holiday place. Very big. So it's very busy, in the summertime. Why not? We'd go along like 20 miles of beach. Yeah. I'm
totally unfamiliar with England. Could you just repeat the place name again?
His name is Poole.
Poole, okay.
With an E. And it's got a huge harbour. It's actually the second natural largest harbour in the world after Sydney, Australia.
What?
I know. And so it's similar feel because it has islands. It's got like 6 or 7 islands within this, and it's 120 miles around inside the harbour. That's how big it is, if you can imagine that. And a very, very narrow entrance to the open channel. So very big tides, but the rest of it's very safe. So for sailing and windsurfing, which was very big when we were first there, or anything on the water, you can't really come to any because it's sheltered. You don't get the waves, but you get the wind, right? Can't imagine. Yeah, I know. And being a sailor, of course, I just embraced it. That's all I did when I was growing up, apart from obviously going to school, was racing, competing. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear about it. So you're racing sailboats.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I sailed with my dad in the dinghy that he built from a kit, and that's the one I learnt on. And so I sailed with him, first of all, and then I booted him out. He had to go get his own boat, sail with other people, and then I had crews for myself, just 2 people, right? It's just a small little dinghy, mirror dinghy. And then I got a laser, which most people do know about lasers, because they're worldwide. And yeah, I was quite light at the time too, so it was hard work to sail one of those. Yeah, I actually had to wear weight on me, to sail it.
And so these competitions that you were doing, like, what were the competitions like? So
okay, so I raced just locally, obviously from my own yacht club, because I belonged to 2. And then I used to go off to different places around the country with my laser, and then compete with, different areas. And then I did nationals with the laser. And I've also did some European championships with another kind of boat that was like women's team. We got women's teams together, and we actually did the Europeans in a J24. That was very exciting. I think I was 18 then. So that was pretty neat. Yeah.
So you would be competing sometimes solo, and then other times
with a crew of 4 of us. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of neat for me because I don't really know anything about this. But what is the difference between those 2 things, sailing solo in a competition versus sailing with a group of people? Well,
yeah, that's totally different. Yes. As any people know, working as a team is totally different. I think, doing your own thing, I mean, it's only you that you can, it's up to you to do everything. But I was always helming as well when I was in my group. So therefore I was making the decisions, right? So I was still kind of in charge. But they were all very skilled sailors, the group of us. So everyone had their, But yeah, we didn't do too much of that. But usually I was on my own. So but even my local club had national champions and Olympic sailors in it. So if you could keep up with them, you knew you were doing all right,
Yeah.
Made my day when I actually beat them. Didn't happen very often. But I can say I did it a few times.
So you started at the age of 6, and how long did you compete in sailing for?
Pretty much till I left and I came to Canada. Yeah. And then I got to be a crew. I went to the Victoria Yacht Club and said, anyone want any crew? Because I'd love to keep sailing. And so I did that for a while I was there. But then I moved out here, and then I haven't done very much. Yeah.
It's interesting people's passions and what draws them to particular things. And so was it just something that was within you that came out once you were introduced to sailing, that you're like, oh my gosh, I just on a physical level love this? Or was it something you had to learn to love?
Actually, I think it was love it the first time I went with my dad. I don't know, well, partly because my dad loved it too, right? So I had his energy kind of. But I always felt like it wasn't scary, or it was just the feel of being in a sailboat and with the wind. It felt like a natural thing, actually. So yeah, and it always was like that. And yeah, so that's my dad and I did a lot of that together. Yeah.
Cool.
Whereas, other people like my brother, he did it, but he didn't love it. He would do it because we went sailing, but he didn't have that. But for me, it was always like a passion. And I think that's why it's great to do the junior sailing here, because I'm watching these kids learn like I did, right? And the fun and joy you can see in them, how they gain confidence. And so it just takes me back to when my dad was teaching me. And I think that's why I enjoy doing that as well. So it just took me back a lot of those years, right, to that place. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, mental note, we're going to touch back in with the junior sailing program on Pender. But what your dad's first name was?
Roy.
And he was a bank manager,
He was a bank manager.
Who got promotions.
But he was always, when I met other bank managers who he worked with, I was thinking, I know I'd be totally biased, of course, my dad was, but he was one of those that would put on his wellies and go out to his farming customers and go out in the fields to meet with them because they couldn't come in, or he was just one of those very hands-on, kind of practical people. And I think that's why he did so well, because he had a good rapport with everyone, because of that. Yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
Well, I was very close with my dad, yeah, because he taught me the sailing. He taught me how to swim. You know, all of that love of nature, just being outside, and it all came from him. So I have to thank him for, the big part of my life still, right? So.
Yeah, that's nice. It's really nice to hear when people say that they're close to their parents or a parent in particular. You know, like it's a lovely thing to hear. Your mom's first name?
My mom, she's called Jennifer.
Okay. And you actually, when you came in, you said you were just talking to her today.
I talk with her once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course, long way away, but phone calls are good. The old-fashioned phone calls.
I love phone calls. I don't know. I don't even I love talking on the phone. I'm going to be a diehard person on the phone for a long time. You said that you continued sailing until you came to Canada. What persuaded you to come to Canada?
Love. Okay, I'll make it a shorter version, but I had just finished my nurse training and my girlfriend had just finished becoming a doctor, and we were going to go on this trip. And we were supposed to go skiing in Europe, and it fell through with the people we were going to go with. So she turned around, she said, Carolyn, she said, how do you fancy going to Canada? I have a friend, we could go visit her instead. Okay, I say, that sounds fine. So this is January. We came to Victoria, and we stayed with her friend who was going to UVic. And then I met my first husband the next day, Jeff. And so that was it. Really, that was the January, and he came to England in the spring. I came out here in August, and then we got married in December. So that's how I, got to Canada. Love. And heck, it was, I've never looked back. I always thought when I felt home as soon as I got here, to be honest, it was like, oh yeah, even though I've told you how wonderful pool is, it just felt a bit different.
Yeah. So you mentioned nurse training as well too, and I think I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. But with the obviously that's a huge part of your story. We're going to get into today the career that you wound up having, but you did your nurse training just after high school, I presume.
Actually, it wasn't my first choice.
Okay.
So I actually wanted to be a physiotherapist because I had this vision that I could be a sports physio and travel around with a team. And I thought, oh, yeah, that would be really, I think I like that, right? Anyway, I went to London to school, and I didn't make it through my first year. I did all the practical stuff, but I failed my theory, and you can only take it once. They don't let you retake it. And so then I was like, oh. And at the time, of course, I was 19. I was devastated because that's all I'd ever thought I wanted to do. But we'd done 3 months nursing, or part of it, in our training, and I loved it. And so I thought, I'm going to be a nurse instead. And I can still use all I've learnt with this first year of physio and put it towards. So I had to wait a year to get in because of the way the schooling is, and worked in a bank for that time to earn some money and those kind of things. And then I went back to nursing school for 3 years. Yeah.
All right. 3 years of nursing school. And you said the physio school was?
I did about just over a year.
But that was in London?
That was in London.
Okay. Was that a big move to go from Poole to London?
Oh, yeah. And I thought, and it sounded like when you're 18, it'd be very exciting. But it was southeast London, not such a nice area. But actually it was, in some ways, I think it was really good for me because I went from very white, conservative area and private school and all of that to people were different colors and people had different religions, and I think it was probably one of the best things for me as a person because it made me much more open to different ways and so London, I didn't like it really. I didn't like being not near the ocean, of course. River didn't really do it. I used to go home a lot. Sailing, of course. That might be why I didn't do so well. And consequently, I went to my school of nursing, was actually in my hometown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so luckily for me, there was one there. So I got to stay at home and do all the things I wanted to do. Yeah.
So the school of nursing takes 3 years. And during those 3 years, were you finding that it was something that you were passionate about during that time? Or did things really align for you? Or you still have questions for yourself during that time?
No, not really. Actually, it fit pretty good. I liked it because it was called the Dorset School of Nursing. So that's a county school of nursing. So we weren't big classes. And I think that always suited me better, right? And I met some amazing people. I'm still friends with some of them 40 odd years on. And it was the best way to learn. It was a hospital training, right? It wasn't like degree courses. Often you don't spend much time. We did 6 weeks in school and then we were working full time on a ward. So it was like,
what?
Pretty hard.
Yeah.
But also it was like, so people dropped out quite quickly because they realized that, oh, I don't think I can do this. And that's probably good because they only just started. So they didn't. But you learned quick. Otherwise you were probably not going to make it. Should I tell you about my first shift?
Of course. I want to hear about this.
Oh, okay. So probably a nightmare shift. So as I said, after 6 weeks, you go, and I had an afternoon shift and I went on and it was a cardiac floor. And of course I was petrified. I was shaking like a leaf. Anyway, so nicely start off, the sister says, okay, can you go and do the OBS? That's observations. That would be like vital signs, right? Everything, different language again, right? So, okay. So I went round. I was doing people's blood pressures and pulses and all that. And I got to this lady and she really didn't look very good. In fact, she was grey kind of color. Anyway, her pulse was all over the place. I couldn't get a blood pressure. And as I was doing it, she had a cardiac arrest. Right after only being on the ward like 10 minutes. So, of course, there's lots of people around. I called and I had to thump on her chest because we had to do that. And luckily, I didn't have to do very much because all the team kind of just came. But you can imagine how that felt afterwards. I was toast. If I was shaking before, I was shaking even more. And I was white myself. And, of course, then I had to carry on with my shift, right? They didn't send me home or go back or anything because when you work full time, you're actually a member of the staff. They're counting on you to be there. You're not extra, right? So I finally got off my shift and I wandered back to the nursing home and and everyone was going, what's the matter with you? I told them because they couldn't believe it. I don't think that happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen to very many. But I thought afterwards, on retrospect, looking at, if I could deal with somebody having a cardiac arrest, then not many other worse things could happen to you, right? So it was actually, in some ways, after I got over that shock feeling, having said that, I didn't really want to go back the next day. But then it didn't happen again, right? So, and things like that happened all through my training. If things were going to happen, they usually happened. Yeah, I had somebody bleed out to me on a surgical ward in front of me, and I had, somebody went into acute renal failure, and we even had a fire, and all the kind of emergency things that you really don't, but I'd seen them all by the time I'd finished, so I think that just made me feel more confident and stronger as a new nurse when I'd graduated, right? Because I'd had all those amazing experiences, and other people never saw any of those things, I don't know. It's kind of weird looking back on that.
Is there anything that happened during those 3 years that, you had an expectation or a preconceived idea about what things were going to be like, but things turned out to be quite different?
Well, it certainly makes you, because you do all the specialities, right? It made me feel like I knew I didn't want to be an emergency nurse. Though having said that, I dealt with those, but I didn't want to be in the ER, dealing with those things. We did psychiatry. And we were in one of those, if you can imagine, people imagine in England, in the countryside, one of those big, grey, isolated buildings that make you creepy before you even get there. That's the hospital I was at. So, and when we first walked in, we all thought, how are we going to do this? Because we were quite a ways from our base. This was out from Poole in the miles from nowhere, right?
Okay.
In the winter, dark. It was. Couldn't tell the nurses from the patients some of the times. All the things you hear about, but it was actually like that. And it was I was counting off the days. I really was. That was the place I really just couldn't. It was torturous. So it made you realize what you wanted to do, right? So, or not do, as the case may be.
Yeah. So then the training comes to an end. The 3 years are up, and then what is it that you want to do?
Well, I didn't know. Okay. So there was a piece. First of all, I thought I might like to go and be a midwife, and actually had a place in London. I was going to go back to St. Mary's in London and maybe do midwifery. Mm-hmm. And I had a place to go and do it, but I had to wait. So I just worked in some nursing homes and I did casual work, in a few places and of course, I came to Canada. And that was it. Changed everything, right?
Everything changed.
That's right. So went out the window. And then, so then I had to come here and then review all of that.
Okay, well, let's pick it up with coming to Canada and falling in love. What year was that exactly?
That was 86.
It was 86. Okay, so you moved to Maine very quickly after that.
Yeah, I did. Okay. That's right.
So 1986, did you get to go to Expo or what?
Yes. When I came on holiday, we went to Expo. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. And it was all happening here then, yeah.
It was 1986 in Vancouver.
Whoa, that was quite the time.
Yeah. So you come to this this new world called Canada.
Yeah.
You're on the West Coast. What are you thinking about the place? Because I'm sure there were some similarities to home a little bit.
Yes, definitely the ocean and the smell and just the freshness, though it was just cleaner here. I'm not talking about the cities, of course. And when I came to Expo, we actually went to Tofino and camped on the beach because you could then. I thought that was one of the best things ever. I thought, oh, yeah. And it's still one of my favorite places, but, get to experience it that way when you'd never done that before, that was pretty amazing. But, yeah, I think I liked all the trees. Everything about it was, and suppose you coming to the Gulf Islands, it was always like, oh, yes, this is where I want to be. I knew that right away, You just know it in your heart, right, that this is home. And I think my family always thought that, when I split up with my first husband, that I would, so when you're coming home, I got that comment quite a bit. And I said, but it's not home anymore. Canada's home. Yeah. So I think that was a bit hard for them because they thought I would just return.
Well, what was that first year like for you living on Mayne Island in 1987?
Well, I wasn't there much, so I really didn't feel like I was hugely part of the community so much because I was only there on my days off.
Okay.
Right, because we were commuting and stuff. But I like the smallness of it. It always felt good not to be in the city. So I liked that piece, and I liked how open and welcoming people were, and much more different to, obviously, the city type in Victoria. But no, in England, people don't talk so much to everybody like we do here, right? So I always like that friendliness and inclusiveness, I guess, of the islands. Yeah. I mean, and I did join some things, and so it wasn't until I got the job on Maine that I felt like I was more of part of the community. Yeah.
Sure. And what year did that happen again?
That happened in 93. So there wasn't a home care nurse before that. They didn't have one. They had people traveling to do that job, right? But then it was the CRD then. You can believe it. The nursing was under CRD then.
Weird.
I know. Many bosses over the years. So it was a contract job, and it sounds like nothing. It was like 15 hours a month or something. But it was a start, right? To get somebody who was living there to do it, right? And so that was, I loved that. That was a great challenge, and how I was going to do it and juggle my other work and all that. So, being the first one, and I worked from home. For a nurse, that's weird. You had all your supplies in the house and a fax machine and your phone. So my phone number was the same. They didn't even give me a different line. So I'd have, patients calling me there, and a whole different world, right, than now. But that was what it was like. So you didn't think of it as being weird or different. When people started showing up at the house, that was a bit much. Luckily I only had that a few times, but...
Yeah, let's get into the details here, because it is really interesting, right? So so it's new to the residents of Maine as well, too. It's
right.
Like, oh my gosh, there's like a part-time nurse.
Yeah, exactly.
And so people would be coming to your house to look for...
supplies. Or I think, yes, and the one we always used to get, like, if I was home on a long weekend, I've had people coming from, like, their visitors, right, might forget something. Oh, and somebody would tell them, Carolyn might have it down. Just go to the end of Horton Bay Road. She'll be able to help you. I have that, So that wasn't so good. That can be too small when that was happening. Because there's no boundaries then. And that's. But of course, I didn't realize at the time because it was all new, right? So I just kind of, I can help.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to, be useful to somebody who, especially you can't get stuff. You need without going off the island, right? So
And so with doing the part-time work on Mayne, you're now splitting your time going back and forth to the Jubilee Hospital in Victoria. And so was that, did you maintain a place over there or?
So I had apartments for quite a long time. And then that was quite expensive because I was already, so I'd bought a house on Mayne by then. So then, and rent and a mortgage, that was quite a lot. And then all the travel time, right? So I ended up just having a room in a friend's house for quite a bit of the time. And that worked well. I mean, obviously I gave her something, a little bit, but it wasn't like paying rent or utilities or any of that. So that was the best for that. But yeah, but
and also I'm just sort of thinking as well too, like that, because when I talk to people during interviews or just, in real life situations, it's kind of amazing how like much can happen to an individual in a year, for instance, and conversations like this are like relatively brief, right? And it's like, it's like this happened this year, then that happened this year, but just to slow it down a little bit here too, right? Just sort of thinking that, from your time working at the Jubilee during those years, how did you change as a person? What were some of the things that you were seeing and experiencing through your work that was kind of influencing you? And what was going on for you during those years, would you say?
That's a good one. I think it was just trying to find the balance of the work and life. And at some points that didn't work very well. All it seemed to be doing was I was working. Because, of course, I would come home. So initially I was working full-time in Victoria and then I know it doesn't sound many hours, but of course they increased quite quickly. They could see the need, and so I did get more hours. So it felt like, some days I was work, I don't know, 20 days in a row or something. And then that got a bit hard for sure. And the commute. And, of course, I was doing night shifts then. I wasn't just day shifts. So we had the 12-hour nights and all of that. So I tried to cut down my hours in Victoria, balancing out the ones on Mayne. So, yeah. So I changed a few jobs at the hospital while I was still working on Mayne. Yeah. But it was tricky balancing it because I realized that you can't sustain that as a, functioning person because that's not going to work for anything. So I think that's when I started learning self-care quite quickly, that I needed to take breaks a lot or regular breaks. And then even, when I was back on Mayne, do lots of good things for myself so that I could keep my energy up, so that I could keep caring for people, whether it was on Mayne or in the city. Yeah, but that was an ongoing process, I think, all the way through. Yeah, absolutely, till I probably retired, because it's something you can always look at, right? Always look at. Yeah.
What do you mean by always look at?
Well, the balance and taking care of yourself. Yeah. And as you get older, of course, you don't have as much reserve either. And the caring is an accumulative thing when you look after people. You don't really realize the impact it's having on you until you stop doing it. Even for your holidays, like the first week, I was probably toast. And then the second week, I might be all right. And I actually had to take 3 weeks to actually feel like normal again. So, yeah, that just gives you an idea that when you're in it, you don't think of it. It's like probably lots of jobs are like that. But I think for our caring job and taking on the responsibility of how people are doing at home, or if they're dying, or their families, you don't really realize it until you're not doing it. Yeah. So
the conversations about self-care, were those conversations that were arising with other nurses, or was it something that you sort of had to come to on your own?
With nurses, but a lot of them, of course, weren't. They had their job in the city. Nobody that I knew was doing the commute thing somewhere else and back home, because they were home, right? And then having to juggle all that other stuff at home and then do the job there. But yeah, I did it for a long time. I did that, cripes, 20 years altogether commuting. That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing how much we take for granted in the world. I know I take things for granted all the time. And just when you're describing about, it sounds like the emotional toll and energetic toll of having to care for other people. It's not something I've really thought about a lot, but maybe if you're okay to talk about that a little bit. sounds like a really big deal. Like if it's taking 2 weeks to actually get back to a state of regulation within your body, and that obviously sounds like it's taken a big toll.
Yes, and as I said, but you don't really realize it, When I started working at hospice, of course, so I was doing all palliative care then, and I did 10 years there before I retired from the city, and then I had a lot more hours on Mayne, and then of course I got the job here. But that was the piece I enjoyed the most, though, was the heart work. I call it heart work, or just being with people in that place. It might have been the most draining, but it was the most rewarding part of the work, just being with people in that and their families. I felt you could make the most difference with somebody with that. And sometimes you didn't have to do very much. Just showing up at somebody's home, whatever that was, talking to them, letting them have the space to talk about things and their family. Sometimes that was all you needed to do. And it doesn't sound very much, but for them, because you were there, that could mean the difference, right? And made the world to them. And I always felt it was a gift to be able to do that kind of work. And they were giving a gift for people being able to stay at home and die. Because it is a gift if you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we're going to spend a little bit of time here because I'm really curious about this, and I think it's really important to talk about. And so, how did you come to the realization you wanted to get involved in palliative care?
I think because I had worked in lots of different parts of nursing in the hospital, and when it came to people who were palliative even in the hospital, and then my initial job on Mayne, I got to do some palliative care. It's not all that. But I think they say now it's like 40% of home care nurses' work or community care nurses' work. It's palliative, which is actually quite a lot, right? But I said that's always where I found that's where I wanted to, not that you choose it, but I just wanted, and that's why I went to hospice, because I thought, I'm going to get the best experience here for learning the best how to do it. And I did. 10 years there was amazing. I did 2 years on the unit. And then I did 8 years on the palliative response team. And that was basically going out to any of the patients that were registered with hospice, anywhere in Victoria and surroundings. So you could be out in Deep Cove, you could be out in Machosen, and everywhere in between. So you never knew where you were going to, because it's more emergency, right? You're responding to a problem, and the home care nurses need some help, or they're not there in the night. And so you'd get called out, and off you'd go, and you'd take your little kit of medicines, and you'd kind of deal with whatever it was in the moment. And fantastic job. Everyone looks at me normally and they go, that sounds really scary. Going out at night, because we had a counsellor. It was a counsellor and a nurse team, but they didn't work the night shift from 11 till 8, so you were on your own. But I didn't really think about that, because where you're going, because the nurses, who their regular nurses had already been in there. So they knew the person and you had information on them. It's not like you were going into a home you didn't know, or they hadn't been checked, or the people hadn't been, because there's all of that. You have to think of all of that. There's only a few times I had to actually have the RCMP with me or at the end of the phone in case. Because some of the places, obviously, there's looked after people down on the water, even some person, we had looked after people, homeless people. They still needed some care. So yeah, it seems all over the place. It's amazing, because you never knew who you were going to end up helping at any time. So you got to know Victoria pretty good.
Sure.
Only got lost a few times. I'll tell you, Machosen was the worst. Very dark and, yeah, hard to see the signs. I think I went to a house once, the wrong house once. Only once in 8 years.
Pretty good.
In the middle of the night, though, that wasn't good. I was knocking on their door. Oh, my gosh. That was bad. But what could I do? They said, no, it's next door. Okay, sorry.
It's only happened once, first time.
That's right. I don't need a nurse. Okay, that's fine.
So, nurses in general are dealing with people when they're not at their best, but in the palliative care situation, it's obviously not just dealing with people who are not at their best, but near the end of their life. to be in a situation where you're dealing with that day in, day out. How did that feel?
I think as time went on, you just got to be better at being with people. I mean, any home care nursing is, you're going into somebody's home, their space. It's not the hospital. You're not in control. They can tell you to go at any time if they're not, so you have to go in and just see where everyone is at before you apart from just saying hello, obviously. And I always found that, and that's always thing I like to teach other people when they were starting. Well, how do you go into somebody's home? And I've seen people go in and try and, change things and tell people what to do. And you can't do that in people's homes, They're not gonna, I'm not very good at when people tell me what to do either. And I think especially if somebody's at home with a palliative diagnosis, you have to meet them wherever they're at. They might not need you. They might have a visit and then they may say, thank you for coming. We appreciate the information and we'll call you if we need you. And that's fine. And sometimes they never, you call them and they say, no, it's okay. And that's it. Or you could have people that need you a lot and everything in between. So I think you just have to, have a sense of what it feels like. You can tell by energy and when you walk into a home. And I think people are just in a place, if they need you, they do really want you to be there and they'll, yeah. I've always loved going, I think it's the best work, just looking after people at home. Because you walk in and you can get that sense of them without asking any questions. Just from, non-verbal that they're, showing or just their home itself, right? Whether it's their art or their, just the whole place. I think that's why I loved it so much, because you could just be with people in their own environment and to help them stay there, if that's what they choose. Not everybody chooses, of course, to die at home for many reasons. But if you could, and that's what they wanted to do, and you were part of that, as I said, it was a gift. Yeah. I get a bit choked.
Yeah.
Because I looked after a lot of people over the years. And sometimes it was friends, and that was really hard. Because I never, most people know me, my heart is usually on my sleeve anyway, and I could never leave my heart at the door. People used to tell, well, you have to harden up a little bit and you just don't take yourself in there. And I said, that's not how I'm nursing. I am who I am, and that's how people will have me. And if I cry with them, I cry with them. Or if I laugh with them, I laugh with them. But that's what it's going to be. I can't not do that. And if it's a friend, you can't leave that at the door, That was probably the hardest, especially, Mayne, because I was the only one and I didn't have a choice of handing it off to somebody else. Here was a little different because, of course, I had a colleague. But if they were on their days off and I had to go, then you had to do it and fall apart afterwards when you went out. Completely fall apart. I mean, not, obviously not just crying, but take some breaths, go to the beach. Thank goodness we had that. That helped me kind of carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really tough. Really, and I'm just also considering the fact of how intimate these moments must be between you and patients who are nearing the end. Like death is something that obviously touches us all, but it's something that I think in our society we keep at an arm's length and don't really talk about it very much because it's a very uncomfortable subject, obviously, but it's going to happen to all of us at some point, and it's going to happen to everyone we know. And, in terms of conversations and interactions that you had with people that were dying and knew that they were dying, was there any common themes or insights or thoughts or feelings, or was it all very unique?
It was all very unique. I think dying is as individual as being born. That's how I always looked at it. Because it's special in its own way. Every birth is like that, right? It's always, yeah. And I think if you can look at it that way, and we know it's going to happen, it is a natural thing. Obviously, now I'm going to go off into some other topic in a second, but I think it just made me look at my mortality, obviously, a fair bit. But I don't fear it, because I've seen how there are good deaths. A lot of them are, if you can do your job and somebody's very peaceful and slip away, that's a good death for everyone. And then, obviously it's not all the time, because some very difficult things can happen to people at the end of their life. But you just have to try and manage that, to the best you can. Or the families do, because you're not there all the time, of course, but you have to set them up so that they can, deal with it. Tricky, and especially at home, because you're not, you haven't got the environment where you have a nurse come 2 seconds to deal with it. But I had so many amazing, just gentle times with people that, obviously I wasn't always present, but when I was, it always, and you can tell, you can feel obviously when somebody goes, and sometimes you can actually see them go. Like, I have actually seen spirits leave people, and it's not scary. I try and tell people that, because people are obviously afraid, and they can be. Obviously they can. Understandably they can. But I think if you can, talk about that, it isn't always like that. I think, unfortunately, TVs and movies and things have made it so that it can be so violent. And of course the deaths that I was with or part of, we know it's going to happen. So you kind of plan as much as you can to make it okay for the person and their family, so that when it does happen, not saying that, people can't get very upset or go into shock, or maybe they call the ambulance and they shouldn't have done that. That's normal reaction. People will do that. That's being human. But if you can have as many things in place for them, so they know who to call, who not to call, all the things that they might look for when somebody's dying, then you're doing, I don't like saying job, because it never felt like it. It is, but it isn't. That makes sense?
Yeah. Totally. Well, 2 questions for you. You mentioned the term a good death. And I guess different people have different thoughts on this, but what are your thoughts about what a good death looks like?
Well, if somebody's accepting that that's happening, that they're not fighting it for whatever reason, they might. The family are all right with it, and that it's peaceful and calm, and somebody just slips away at the whatever time because I do believe people choose when they go, if they're doing it naturally, whether they wait for people to come, like they're waiting for one more person. They may not even be conscious, right? But they're still there. And of course, we always say that people can hear you till the last minute. So that, I've seen people hang on, and that person has walked in the door. They've gone and touched them, said they were there, and then they've gone, literally within a minute of that person arriving. Or if somebody's very private and quiet person, they'll maybe wait till everyone leaves the room or goes out for a breath of air or something. Not away, but just away from the room. And they'll just do it quietly on their own. So, as I said, it can be, it makes it unique, right? I always felt that people die the way they've lived. And I do believe that, because I've saw it so many times, right?
Yeah. So if someone's a private person, they've lived a private life, then their death will resemble that in some way, in terms of wanting a little bit of privacy.
I've seen it happen many times. Yeah.
Wow.
Even in the hospice too, right? Even, they might have had, and then somebody might go home for a break or have a shower or something. And then they get very upset because they missed it. The actual moment. They might have been with them for, days, right? And then they get all upset. And then you have to say, well, what kind of person? Oh, a very private, quiet person. I said, well, they were just trying to, save you actually saying that last bit. I know, it's, I said, people will do Well, I do believe they choose it, obviously, on some level, because I do believe people's will to overcome all the physical things that may be happening with them for whatever reason why they're dying can overcome that, if they want to wait for somebody. I've seen somebody, they were on our unit, I think, for 10 days and they'd had nothing to eat or drink, basically. They were unconscious and they waited for that person who had to come from very far away. So it was the will to wait. Strong. We underestimate that part, right? I think. So when you see it, Mm-hmm.
Another thing he said that death is not scary. And so like that seems like it's counterintuitive. Because like it seems like the scariest thing there is, other than public speaking, of course, right? But you say it's not something that's scary. So
only because I've seen it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many times. People don't look like they're afraid in their face. You can tell if somebody, their face is relaxed when they've gone. Then they obviously weren't in pain, right? They were just eased through to that next place. Yeah.
These things are really delightful to hear. It's really nice to get to hear this perspective because, in terms of people that you've worked with over the years, I'm guessing it would go into the hundreds.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably more. I'd probably be over 1,000 at least. All those people in Victoria too. Not obviously here, but because I did 10 years at hospice, so yeah.
Did it change for you through the years in terms of working with people and then them dying? Did you have a more difficult time with that in the beginning, or did that ease through time, or how was that for you? Because I think that would be really difficult to be making a connection with an individual and then they're suddenly gone, and to have that reoccurring through your days,
Yeah, it definitely was a cumulative thing for the loss. Yeah. I think at the beginning it might have been easier than at the end of because I'd had so many deaths by then. Yeah. It was always difficult, but then you kind of also go back to you find ways to be with that. And I always found, well, not with the people I looked after in Victoria, but certainly the people on Mayne and here, I tried to always go to the celebration of life, because I think it gives closure for family and friends, but it also gave closure because you'd been so involved. You become not a family member, but you're in the home a lot when people are at that end part. You can be in every day sometimes, sometimes twice a day. So you become part of all that going on. And so I found that was not all nurses wouldn't do that. But if I could, and I felt it would be okay to, I would certainly go and be able to, say goodbye properly too. It was also, I always liked it too, because you obviously come into people's life when they're at the end and you found out more about them from those services or celebrations. And you thought, oh gosh, because you never have much time to find out about them, obviously at that point. So I always found it was so nice to have all the life part, before the end part, and you got to experience that and meet their not family members that may not have made it, or it kind of just tied it all together for me. Yeah, I actually like to do that.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, I guess, because in like your interactions, it's just a lot about how to make things more comfortable and possibly how to prepare for the end. And it's not about like, tell me about what you were like when you were 30.
Sometimes, I loved hearing stories. And I think when you go into somebody's home, when somebody's, palliative and dying, that there's not all the barriers when you get to know somebody. Like if you're meeting somebody and you're getting to be friends, you go through all these, like not barriers, but you have to kind of wade through to the person, because we do put up barriers sometimes, right? It's normal as defense, you know. You don't want to like get yourself complete, but you go in and somebody, and it's raw, right? They're raw because they don't have that time. So sometimes you actually get to know somebody, the core of that person, really quite quickly, because that's who they are then, right? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I kind of like that too, because it was the important things for them at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I was just going to say, I
no,
guess,
it's
and,
like,
and you'd see the good and bad in people as well, too.
oh,
Like, or
absolutely.
quote unquote good and bad. Like, the rawness probably didn't look very pretty sometimes, too.
No, that's right. But then that's probably had been them anyway, right? Because we're also very different, especially when you're sick. And if you're in pain or other things going on, it was hard to be kind of sometimes, let's say, not nice. I didn't mean nice. And it was okay for people to be angry. That's what they needed to be at that point. It's not, you don't take it on personally. It's not to do with you. It's to do the whole situation. But you have to hopefully help people get through that anger part too, Sometimes you don't. I mean, it's not always not perfect. We didn't always get there with everyone, but you try and you keep trying until you can't try anymore, till it's too late
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the work that you've done doing that. I'm sure you've touched so many people's lives. To me, my understanding is not just dealing with, a patient who is going to die, but it's also trickles down through the family members, I would presume too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think MAID has certainly changed a lot of the palliative care right now, with people having a choice. And I think we're so lucky in Canada to have that as an option for people. Because, of course, it's still fairly new. And I mean, they're adjusting it as the needs happen. But the fact that people can, when they're ready, choose their day and their time and who they want to be with and where they want it to happen. It's an amazing thing. There's not many countries in the world that have it legally. We're one of few. So that changed our care somewhat because, one day, you'd help, obviously it's quite a process to get all the forms and everything in place. And there's lots of legalities and there should be around all of that. But then suddenly, somebody may still be walking around and they've chosen the next day or something, and you get to say goodbye, knowing that they're having that the next day. So when that was initially starting, it was a bit of a change in our mindset on how that was. I mean, it was all, as I said, I'm very thankful that we all have that choice if we need it to do that, if you believe in that, of course. But for us as nurses, palliative nurses, it changed everything, quite a bit. So it always felt weird because, I can see people and and I think it actually found it harder to say goodbye then than maybe when we were doing more of when it was a natural process. Yeah. I think I got way more choked with people and they got choked with me more because they were, more alert and, it's kind of difficult to describe that one, but yeah. But after what, I'm not saying it got used to it, but it became, okay, well, this is what it is now. And not everybody chooses that. Of course they don't. They want to, whatever reason, be natural. But it did change the way you look at it.
Yeah. I can see that being far more difficult. Just both parties knowing that tomorrow is the end. And prior to that, with the, the amount of the unknown existing, basically, right? Like that, I'm sure it really did change things for how you felt. Because I guess it would be a surprise, for lack of a better word, when you would find out that patients would die sometimes and, not like a full knowing, like, oh, tomorrow, it's an absolute certainty that's going to happen. But for myself, I think it's a wonderful thing that exists, that it's an option, and that it really seems like it gives people a chance to feel a little more empowered about.
Exactly, because they're losing so much of control in their life, right? They know they haven't got long and all of those things. So the fact people can hold on to this is the thing they can still decide themselves without, So I think it did. I think you're right. The empowering of somebody right to the end. But a lot of people will, do all the legality piece, but they may choose, may not need to do it because it happens naturally anyway, or something sudden, because obviously not everything is, everyone's trajectory of their illness can be quite different. There may be something major that happens at the end that you can't plan for everything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they maybe not need it, or they choose not to at the end. They're fine with just letting things take their course. But yeah, I'm amazed there's not many more countries that have this.
Yeah, totally. Well, we're going to close the chapter on this portion, but before I do, I just want to see if there's any last thoughts on this long career and work that you've done in this area that you want to share that we didn't touch on in this section, speaking about this, because I just think it's amazing, and it seems like it's really important work, and I just want to acknowledge that. And I mean that sincerely, and if there's anything else that you think people might want to hear or know about the work or anything you want to share, go for it.
Well, I think, you know, my other colleagues that are now doing it, I mean, I think all the nurses that do this kind of work, you have to be kind of passionate about it and just open to whatever is going to happen for that person. And we're lucky we have such great people on the islands. I love working on the islands too, because pretty much autonomous working, right? You didn't have a manager like over your shoulder, or you just went out there and did your thing. Not saying we did things, you know, not, but we had more of a let's say, the nurse's role on the islands was way more, you know, flexible than, let's say, the city nurses, because you just, you know, the things I've done, just, you know, even getting to work, that, you know, was fun. You know, sometimes I kayaked to work, cross-country skied to work, snowshoed to work. And, you know, how nice is that? Or got to meet people, you know, because we don't have lots of other supporting people like occupational therapists or physios or counselors or social work. We do there in Victoria, but to actually get them to come, very difficult. So you actually got to learn a lot of other skills apart from nursing skills to keep people safe. And here on there, it's not necessarily, I'm not talking palliative people, I'm talking any of our clients, just to keep them safe in their home. My friend Kathy she always tells this story about me going over to Mayne in my kayak, taking my tool belt and my drill and going to a lady's home and, you know, putting up rails on the side and a pole for her to get out of the shower. And this lady watched me and she thought it was the funniest thing ever seeing. I have my stuff's pink. She saw me get out all this stuff and do that. And she said, "And Carolyn, who are you today?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of, I don't know, jack of all trades today." But it made the difference of her being able to go up some stairs and get into the shower for the first time for months and months and months. And if that's what you do, then again, you've made a difference in another way. You know, I used to love that. All those different things. Like, you never know what you might end up doing, right?
So you're saying island nurses should understand carpentry?
Oh, yeah, at very least. Kathy will tell you no. She'll say, I can't do that. I've had a good teacher. But, you know, those are the kinds you just end up doing all kinds of things around the home because there isn't the people to do them, or their families aren't here. Or so if it's a safety thing and you're going to keep somebody there, which is actually our job, is to keep people home and safe, regardless of what's going on with them, then I love that part too. I should say I love the flexibility of all of that.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So that's kind of a common trait in rural areas?
I don't know if it's common.
Okay.
I know when I did my retirement video, they were like amazed that I would be kayaking to work and things, you know, with equipment on the back and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, they thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
A West Coast nurse. That's definitely what I was.
Let's kick it into the Pender Island portion of this discussion that we're doing. So you got the job on Pender 2007,
That's said? Right, yes.
All right. And so you moved from our neighboring island.
I did.
Mayne Island, which was just there yesterday, and I told you, beautiful place. Mayne Island's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, so you move over to Pender Island, and how did that go? How was the move from Mayne to Pender?
Well, because I'd worked and then commuted, I did know the community a bit, but of course only from a work perspective. So, but I liked it being a little bigger than Mayne. it was a lovely place to be, but it got too small for me working because I lost myself a bit there, I think. Because it's hard to have boundaries when you're the only one. And I was always the nurse and not Carolyn. Didn't get called C till I was here.
Oh, really? Wow.
Anyway.
Your nickname's like new. It's
actually a legal name too. But anyway, now, but you know, so yes, you did. I kind of lost myself. So when I came here and I was working and I had a colleague and it was like, and I like the, a little bit bigger, but not too big. A little, you know, the energies were different. We had, you know, from very small to the very elderly and everybody in between. And I really liked the balance of all ages. And I found those things to be really a positive thing. I really like that. Yeah. And yes, not so people knew you, but you weren't the only one. That was actually a huge thing for me. Yeah. So
there was two other. So it was when you came to Pender, it was you and one other nurse, basically. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And so when you were on Mayne, it was just you.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's quite different.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and so I said you don't have choices, and so even if you may not have that good connection with somebody, you really don't have a choice of not going there. Could be other reasons, right? I mean, not everybody gets on.
Yep.
You know,
totally.
That's being. So you just had to kind of just grin and bear it, really. I hate that saying, but that's what you had to do. You just get on with it. But of course, here it was not that I probably had to do it very much. I'm not making it sound like I had to do that very often, but
it happens. Like
sometimes people get on better with other people, and so therefore you'd have, you know, you'd share your clients that way, and that was huge for me coming from there. Also, you know, just on a practical, having more doctors, having a lab, having a pharmacy. I thought I'd almost gone to heaven in nursing with all those supports, because on Mayne you don't have any of that. That was huge when you were doing your work. You know, I remember, you know, Christine at the pharmacy bringing in things by float plane for us so that we'd be able to actually get them to somebody that day. It was just like night and day, you know. It felt not easy, but certainly helped with everyone's care. I appreciate it. I don't think other people maybe appreciate that we're very lucky with the services and supports we have on Pender for the size of our community. Because you always have, you know, I always find people, can be critical of all those things. But having worked in it and seen it, I think we're quite blessed here.
Well, could you highlight that a little bit more? Because that is good for people to understand and know. Because I think that this is an interesting phrase that I heard recently, is that we live in a state of expectation versus appreciation. And what I'm hearing you say is that there are some things to be appreciative about that we don't necessarily see, because we have this very small community, and I think that there's a lot of expectations that this should be that or that should be this. But like the things you're describing about the pharmacy bringing in a medication that day by float plane.
Just that's huge, right? For that person, it would have made the difference of them being comfortable or not. Or, you know, I was just trying to give an example of that. And I know from, you know, I mean, there are other small communities our size that do not have the services that we have. And I don't expect people to know that. But also, we are very lucky. And I know people, it's difficult with wait lists, and I know it's hard to get appointments for lab, and I know all those things. But I think sometimes it would be good to step back and, we do have actually this, and this. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, but that's a good. I like your saying there.
I'm trying to keep it front of mind, actually. I'm trying to think, like, you know, for at least balance it, right? Because, you know, like, it's good to expect things. There are things in life we should expect, right?
Oh, right.
But if we are, you know, living like 80-20 expectation versus appreciation, that's out of balance. And like, for myself personally, I want to be more in a state of appreciation, because it actually just feels better, and there's so many things to be appreciative about. Oh,
absolutely.
Right?
And most people are always very appreciative of the things that we you know, as from being a nurse. Yeah, majority of people, of course, always like.
Yeah. So you get to Pender in 2007, and it sounds like you're really appreciative about the fact that you have some support, which you didn't have on Mayne. And in terms of having a little bit more of a bigger population and a different island to move to, how did that feel for you?
As a nurse?
As a nurse and as C, or as you would come to be known as C?
No, I am. Yeah, definitely C now. Yeah, oh no. It's my new name, no.
Yeah.
There's a story how I got that. But anyway,
Because I know you are obviously, as you mentioned, a water person. And
I am a water person.
There's no lake on Mayne Island.
Exactly. I know. So it was always ocean. And I swam every day, though, all through the year there.
Let the people know, because this is amazing. See, how much time do you spend in the water?
Oh, not very long. Not in the winter time. But
Yeah.
I was always in. Not wetsuit. No wetsuit. I don't do that. But as a nurse, though, coming to a bigger, I'll go to the nurse bit first.
Okay.
More clients, more skills needed. So I kept up with way more skills because we actually got a little bit of everything. I'll just say that. So an example would be might more involve wound care or people having, central lines and things like that, that we could get to look after, which I didn't have on Mayne because we didn't have enough people. They sort of do now because it's increased over there since I was been nursing there. So you could keep up with all your skills because we always had something different, And I like that because that keeps you kind of current and, it's more interesting if you get lots of different things. And of course, and our roles here aren't just nursing, they're case managing. And that's the piece where we assess people for home support, for assisted living, extended care, long-term care, and respite. That was another. So we actually have 2 hats on here. So you have many different things to be doing, which I thought I like lots of different things, of course. So that was good. Yes, you couldn't get into one thing because in the cities you'd have 2 nurses come to do those things. So you'd have a nurse come to do one, and then you'd have another nurse come and do another. So whereas we would come, we could do everything, right?
Right. And
so
neither of those 2 nurses were wearing tool belts, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. Sure. I'm glad you like that piece.
I love that piece. It's great.
I should have had a picture of that. But anyway. Yes. So as far as the nursing, that was good. And then I liked the bigger community because there was lots more things. Not that I had lots of time and energy when I was working to get involved with lots of things. But of course I did lots of things myself. Like I've always kayaked. And I've always been swimming. And I've always hiked. So all those things. And then the things I like to do at home that are quiet, like, my cross-stitching or knitting or any of those kind of handicraft things, because I do like to still do all of that. But then since retiring, of course, are we talking about retiring?
We can talk about retirement because I know you're a really active person. You have a lot of hobbies, and I think it's really interesting. Let's get into all the stuff that you're doing because I'm like, I don't know how you have all the time for this, right?
What am I doing? It's volunteering. I'm at the New to You once a week, selling in the store, which I was always in the store once a week shopping. So it's really not, and I have so much fun because I get to see all people I don't get to see, right? Coming through. And so that's really fun. I love doing my shift there. That's really good. And I kind of on the new building kind of user group subcommittee there. And so I'm doing that. I'm on the library board. And that was one of the first things I did because I'm very passionate with my reading. So I thought that was a really good fit. And it's about governance of the library. It's not the running of the library because, of course, our library director does that. But I found that fascinating. I've learned a whole lot. And I'm also on the commission for the libraries. So that's a CRD position. So that's like a mini thing. So I like being part of that. And I'm using my little bit of nursing part there because I'm on the occupational health and safety and accessibility thing. So there's a little sideline on that one. I'm monitoring shorebirds in the wintertime, not in the summer. And then I've just started doing monitoring of the little purple martins down at Port Wash on the boxes. So that's fun. I go down there twice a week and see what's happening with them, what's going on. So that's a little sideline. And I'm hoping to do more volunteering with the Conservancy because I want to do more of that. That's really, really important. And junior sailing, yes. So I started doing that last summer and I had a week on the beach with one of the course weeks and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. See the kids out there. I think we had 30 odd students when the week I was there. So we had a lot of boats out. And it was just a joy to see them learning and getting better and confident and capsizing the boats. And it just took me right back instantly to when I was learning with my dad. So that was good. Of course, I didn't have to do a course because he taught me, but so I really enjoyed that. That was fun. I even went sailing at lunchtimes. So when all the boats were in, I said to the instructors, I don't suppose I could take it, because they are in having lunch and then they're teaching, right? So every lunch I'd take a different boat out for a little half an hour spin around the Browning there. They all thought that was fun, and then they were so cute. And I came back in and they go, wow, see, you can really sail. And I said, yeah, well, it's been a long time because they have lasers, right? So it's just like stepping back in time and, yeah, like riding a bike, I guess. So that was kind of fun that they thought that was good. So I had a great time. Plus I learned using my carpentry skills with Wayne, my husband. So we were doing the floor of the sailing shed this spring, put a new floor down. I learned all kinds of things, See that? I didn't have my tool belt though. Shoot. He had it. Anyway, that was fun. What else? I think that's the volunteering piece, I think.
That's a few things.
That's a few things.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's whoa. And then, of course, now I'm doing more reading. Oh, my garden. I actually have a veggie garden this year. That's the first time I've done that for a long time. Because Wayne always had a big market garden, right? So he's leaving me to it. So I'm learning my way. Yes. So that's been kind of fun to have time to do that. And then the rest of the garden, that's been fun. And then,
And swimming.
More swimming.
Yeah.
More hiking. Just being at home. It's so nice to be at home. Not be feeling like you have to go off. And so, I'm filling my time quite easily.
Yeah. Well, the swimming part, like I love swimming myself, but I was always amazed to hear how much or how frequently you've gone in the water, that you go every day. Oh, definitely now. Yes. I only go probably once or twice a month in the winter now, but now it's once or twice a day. I might go on the way back from here, but I've always found that's my healing. It always was when I was working. Mm-hmm. If I, needed to change my headspace, or if I was feeling a bit run down, then I go and dip in the ocean. It had to be the ocean for that, though. And then I would feel like it just reset my clock. Everything, my whole system, I'd feel absolutely fine. Every time. There's people that live on the island that don't go in the ocean.
I do.
I was one of them for a while until I discovered the joys of the ocean. So tell other people, what is it about like resetting your clock and like when you're feeling run down, you go in the ocean?
If I have a feeling like I'm getting a cold, which doesn't happen very often, but if I used to do that, or if I was getting a headache, this is when I was working, right? I would go and dip. If I've had a flight, like if I've done a long, flight back to the UK, or I've come back, first thing I'll do is go in the ocean.
How long are you going in the ocean for?
Not very long.
Just a quick dip?
Dunk? Usually and you got to get under. You got to get your head under. Okay. The whole thing.
All right.
At least a couple minutes.
At least a couple minutes of your head underwater?
No. Just no. I don't think I could do that. But it's always done it. Even as a kid, I used to do that. I used to go swimming at funny times of the year in England too. So it's not a new thing. It's just been, well, growing up, of course, where I just told you I was growing up, it was easy to go swimming just down the road, right? We spent the whole summer on the sandy beach. I mean, yeah. But it's the cold. The cold is the piece. Yeah. Which is why the lake's too warm now.
Yeah. Well, I noticed this for myself last year. Big time, because Jennifer and I were going in 3 times a week or so. But for me, it was the inflammation was greatly reduced in my body by spending a couple minutes in the water, the cold ocean water. Mm-hmm. Loved it. And then also mood enhancement. I mean, it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're shivering and then you get out, but your body's all tingly and it, anyways, it really carries you forward. And
it does. It makes you feel more alive almost. It gives you another... Yeah, without doing anything else. All you do is do that. A lot of people don't believe it, though.
No, I know.
No.
It's one of those things you have to experience, and it's there. It's there to be experienced, right?
Well, there's a science behind the cold now, right? It's where they were people having, cold tubs now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a thing.
It's huge.
But I've been, as if been doing it for a long time.
I
knew there was a reason why I was doing it. I just didn't know the science behind it.
Yeah, you're ahead of the curve. Ahead of the curve.
Swimming, yeah, it's definitely, Yes. My mum always used to say when I was growing up that I had webbed feet because I was never away from the water. Either I was swimming or I was sailing or I was windsurfing or whatever. That's how much I was in the water. I'm not even a water sign, so I don't know what that's about. Well, Jennifer was laughing about that the other day.
that you're
Geminis are not water signs, but anyway.
Oh, you're a Gemini, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a Libra. My favorite people are Geminis, actually. Really, Gemini season just happened late May to late June, and every time on Facebook a birthday would come up, you're like, oh yeah, that person's what? They're a Gemini, of course they are. I love that person, and it's pretty hilarious actually. Geminis are great, but I also have written down my notes because we had a conversation months ago about before we did this interview, but I noticed I put down 3 exclamation marks beside this, and it said seasonal circles.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know why I put the exclamation marks, but I know that's something that you're participating in on the island is a seasonal circle that exists.
Yes. And that's something I've loved since retiring. I think that helped me transition. Actually, one of the best things for me was that because it made me look at things in a group, with the energy that was there. And I've got very into the seasonal circle.
Could you explain to people what the heck that is?
What the heck that is? So that's celebrating the calendar year with solstice, equinox, and then the quarters in between. So there's 7 a year. So, of course, we just had solstice, and then we had Beltane, which was May Day. Now that's been fun because I've always liked maypoles. And so when I joined the maypole seasonal circle last year, they said... And I mentioned that I liked Beltane, and it was one of my favorites. And they said, will you do us a maypole? And so I did. And so we had our second one this year. And we had it down at Browning, and we had it as a community event, and we opened it up, and it's been fantastic. So celebrating, spring and rebirth and all of those older type traditions that I think we've lost. And I think that's why I really like it, is we're bringing it back, right? Celebrating those things.
Okay. I know Geneva is, definitely interested in this.
No,
and I saw pictures from Browning, and I saw the maypole, but what is the significance of a maypole and what is it exactly?
Oh, well, it depends how you look at it. It's about, so you're putting a pole into the ground. So it's actually a sexual thing, really. But then everyone's celebrating it. So, rebirth and reproduction and all of those things by dancing around it. So, yeah.
And attaching ribbons? Going around in circles, wrapping the ribbon around it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very, it's been going for hundreds of years.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So I do like all of those things. So to be part of that, I've loved it. Yeah, I'd even forgotten I'd done that. Yeah, that's another thing.
So the seasonal circles, they're a community event.
Only that one.
Only that one. Only the May one is. Pardon me. Okay.
No. We opened that one up because it's such a fun thing to have the kids do and things like that.
Okay.
Not saying that people aren't open. We just don't open up to everyone.
Gotcha.
We aren't there. The rest of the people are on an invite list. Gotcha. For the other. Yes.
Okay. But you've been finding this really enjoyable, being in a group of people.
Well, I always kind of did them informally. Myself, but now to do them with a group of like-minded people who enjoy them just as much. And I'm part, I do the planning and for our, each time. So whether it's the drumming or the singing or things I'm bringing that are relevant to that particular event, I've really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's grounded me a lot. Because going from that intense work that I've talked about to not working at all, I didn't transition, I just went, stop. It wasn't difficult because, of course, I am and I can join so many things. It wasn't that part, but the mindset of, needed resetting. And so I think that group really helped with that. Yeah. It is an amazing group. Yeah. Yeah.
What made you decide to do a quick hard stop for the work and go into retirement?
Because I'm one of these people that I'm going to do it full on, or I don't think doing it half would be very good at that. Because I want to do more of it, and then I couldn't, or follow up more things, or so to just do a couple days a week. I knew wouldn't. It's not me,
Okay.
So I know. And everyone thought I'd go back. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought I might go back. But, once I'd made my decision, and that was like, no, I'm enjoying this way too much. I miss the people that I work with. I think I was actually, yes. Once I stopped, I realized how tired I was. And it took quite a long time to be untired. Because I'm quite an energetic person. So for me to say I was tired. But as I said, I didn't really realize it till I didn't have to go back at all. It took a couple of months to feel, It was interesting. My massage therapist said, she said, you are way lighter feeling. She could tell that I was totally different from not working. Because, you might feel it because you take a lot on your shoulders with all this responsibility of the things I've talked about. But you don't realize it until you're not doing it. And then for her to say that, it was like validating. I almost felt like I was floating for a while afterwards. It was amazing feeling. So, yeah.
It's funny, right? Like that. I think what you're describing, so many people can relate to. Like, no matter what job you have,
absolutely.
If you have a job that you should take seriously and you do take seriously, it's got to be very common in people to have like a large amount of stress and metaphorical weight on their shoulders that they're experiencing, and then you don't realize until you don't have to do it anymore. What are we putting ourselves through here, see?
I don't know. It's just like, great. I don't have to go. I don't have to do. I don't have to do anything. Not that I would be doing nothing, but I didn't have to do anything. That was the difference, right? Yeah. So to feel lighter was good.
Yeah. So I was just also thinking as well too, is that is there anything that we didn't cover today? Like, is there any sort of like things that you wanted to mention that we didn't touch on? Because we're not coming to a hard stop here, but thinking about having the gradual.
I think we talked about lots of things.
Do you want to talk about Wayne?
I can talk about Wayne.
Yeah, because Wayne, your husband. How long have you two been married?
We've been married 10 years, and we've been together for just 15.
15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so obviously that's a significant amount of time to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wayne's
third time lucky.
Third time lucky. Okay.
Took me a long time, and him. Yeah. No, it's amazing. And I mean, even when I was working, I mean, he's supportive of all he's not, he doesn't need to do lots of things. He doesn't have to be out there he just likes it to be, him and I and our dog. That's his family, right? And he's happy with that. But he's very supportive of anything I'm doing, whether it's, when I was at work or now, he just helps me with anything, and it's good. It's, I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Border Collie before as well, too. Do you have a Border Collie?
I do. His name is Riggs. He's a red and white Border Collie, and he's 5.
It's a lot of work, them Border Collies.
He likes swimming.
Perfect.
He likes kayaking.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
Really?
He does. He likes the kayak.
Okay.
Amazing, because I never thought Border Collies would like. My other one didn't mind it either.
Yeah.
But we always try and, of course, kayak where we end up going to a beach or for a walk. So he knows he can tolerate being in there and he's good. He looks around. And he just sits there with his head over the side looking at the water. And he's had his picture taken so many times. Not us, of course, but him. Yeah. He's funny. No, he's a good one. He's fun.
Yeah. No,
I've had Border Collies for a long time. Yeah.
Really?
I've only had Border Collies.
You've only had Border Collies?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's my aunt. See, she had Border Collies, and that's where I got my love of Border Collies from.
Okay. All right. Do your aunt and uncle still have Border Collies? Or
They just lost their one. They're not going to have any more, but both my cousins have just got puppies. So 1 year ago and one now. So there's lots of little Border Collies over there. So and they're all in the same town.
Okay.
So village. So yes, they get their Border Collie fix.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Well, dogs are great. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. And anything else on the horizon for you? Is there any other things you're going to be joining or participating in, or are you like?
I'm going to see how this next bit goes. Yeah, I might.
Yeah, you got too many things.
The only other fit I think would be perfect would be Parks and Rec.
Ooh. Okay.
I might be open to that,
Yeah.
but not quite yet. I was a Parks and Rec commissioner on Mayne many years ago, so I have done it before, but I think that would be good. But maybe I can, I'll see how it goes. I think I've got a good balance at the moment.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question or not, but it just came to mind. I'm going to ask, but it's what we talked about before about death and dying. And then, for everything that you've experienced in your life with the work that you've done, how do you feel about your own mortality? And how do you feel about the knowing that you will die at some point in the future? What are your feelings about that?
As I said, I'm not fearful of it. I hope that I have lots more time with Wayne, and that's why I like to, and I have always kind of savored every moment anyway. I enjoy every minute if I can, doing things I enjoy right when I can. And I learned that one quite early on because I lost a couple of friends when I was in my teens and then early 20s, and they were really close to me, and they didn't really have hardly any life, right? This was before I was even nursing. So I knew that the value of just appreciating each day and do what you can when you can. I know lots of people do say that, but I definitely think that's the way to be, because you never know what's around the corner. I think it's good to be prepared. People don't do their wills and all those power of attorneys and all the legal things. And I've learned that you need to do those because you don't know, and then you don't want families to have to try and do it. So I always advise people, it doesn't matter how old you are, if you can have those things in place, it makes things a lot easier, all of that. But no, I just hope I have lots more time here on Pender, where I love to be, and my heart will be. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to C for doing that interview, and thank you for listening. It's been a significant amount of time since a traditional interview has come out. In fact, almost a year to the day since episode 65 came out. In between then and now, I had the pleasure of working on a project for the South Island Historical Society, where I did interviews with the South Pender pioneer family descendants, and also I had the pleasure of doing a series of interviews with Wasanich elders in a series called Wasanich, the Saltwater People. You can find those episodes and previous traditional episodes of the stories that brought you here probably in the same place you're listening to this right now. I just like to let you know that there's new episodes that are going to be coming throughout the fall and the winter. I have a number of them already recorded, and I'm going to be putting them out probably every couple weeks for the time being. So if you'd like to stay up to date with new episodes, please feel free to subscribe in whatever platform you're using, and you can be notified when new episodes come out. I'd like to thank Ben McConkey for providing the theme music to this podcast. And once again, thank you for listening. I wouldn't do it if people didn't listen. I've had people coming up to me in the last couple of weeks saying how much they love the podcast, and it truly means a lot to me. So, again, thank you. And until next time.